welcome to a new game. This is Dear Esther, Landmark Edition. I believe that compared to the original, this game has been reworked in a different engine, more detailed. Um, I'm going at this blindly. It's a shorter game, I believe, an hour and a half, something like that. And in terms of vibe or genre, uh, it might be similar to Vanishing of Ethan Carter, although I'm under the impression that it's not horror, but more atmospheric. Let's say like less horror based and just more focused on just atmosphere. I could be wrong. That's just the impression that I'm under. So let's start. Oh, okay. So we have four. Director's commentary. Yeah, I'm gonna enjoy that. I think. Am I playing? I am. Okay, so we start on a pier.
Hello everyone, I'm Dan Pinchbeck, I'm the creative director of the Chinese Room, and this is the Dear Esther developers commentary.
Hi, I'm Rob Briscoe. I'm the artist on Dear Esther.
And I'm Jessica Curry, and I was the composer on the game.
So what you're looking at today is a remake of a mod. Dear Esther started off in 2007 as a Half-Life 2 mod that did really, really well in the modding community, which was fantastic, and as a result of that attracted the attention of Rob, who worked as the primary developer on a Source remake of the game that was released in 2012. And this year is another remake where it's been updated for a cross-platform release, and we wanted to add in this developers commentary just to give you a bit more of an insight into some of the ideas behind the game as it came together.
That is brilliant. So in video, I can go to advanced. Sorry, not here. Maybe audio. Like, I can get the closed captions. Or also in language. Like, I don't have an option for subtitles, I don't think. Unfortunately. Oh! Hello. Let's see.
So you'll see around you in a lot of the environments, there's a lot of detail ingrained into everything. One of the things that I wanted to do with Dear Esther is bring the visuals up to the same kind of level of detail that Dan and Jess had put into the other areas of the game. So all of the history and the kind of hidden pieces of story that are intertwined with the VOs and the music and stuff, I kind of wanted to bring some of that into the environments. So if you look around you, you see that there's a lot of interesting bits and pieces, a piece of paper with someone's name on it, a photograph, an ultrasound. All of these little bits and pieces are kind of laid in to just kind of bring another aspect of the story into the game. And also, they're actually randomized, so every time you play, you'll see something different lying around. And this is just to build on this idea that everybody has a unique experience and a unique interpretation of the story.
That is awesome. What is that? The Britannic history. Don't know what that means.
So you'll see around you in a lot of the environments, there's a lot of detail ingrained into everything. One of the things that I wanted to do with Dear Esther is bring the visuals up to the same kind of level of detail that Dan and Jess had put into the other areas of the game. So all of the history and the kind of hidden pieces of story that are intertwined with the VOs and the music and stuff, I kind of wanted to bring some of that into the environments. So if you look around you, you see that there's a lot of interesting bits and pieces, a piece of paper with someone's name on it, a photograph, an ultrasound. All of these little bits and pieces are kind of laid in to just kind of bring another aspect of the story
So
into
there's
the
like
game, and
paint.
also they're actually randomized. So every time you play, you'll see something different lying around. And this is just to build on this idea that everybody has a unique experience and a unique interpretation of the story.
That is pretty dope. If I'm, you know, if I can just say that. What the heck is that? Like, is that my goal? Like over there. Well. Oh. Oh fuck. That is paint. Oh. I was expecting like whoever we are to have a, his flashlight or her. I mean, I don't know who we play as, but I was expecting us to turn on our flashlight. Oh. Oh man. Do we die? No. We do not. Okay.
Part of the point about the whole game, I think, was this idea that rather than having a linear, straight through version of the story, that we could have multiple story units for each place you were. And I was really interested in this idea of how you can open up that space that people can interpret. So I loved the idea that you could have two people that had played this game and then would have a conversation about it, and one of them would say, oh, what did you think about when this happened? And the other person would be like, well, that didn't happen for me. I had a completely different event happen or a completely different story happen. And it kind of feels very gamey in that way, that actually one of the things I love about writing for games is that you hand over so much control to the player that it becomes their story, and that's really, really important rather than trying to force them. So using randomised blocks of voiceover in the game and the kind of randomised prop details that Rob was talking about means that it gives it a really different feeling every time you go through. And that's kind of interesting for me, because I like the idea of going, well, not everyone has to have the same experience, and because it's interactive, you have the capacity to have very different experiences occupying the same space. So yeah, but balancing all that then becomes an absolute nightmare.
I think it's nice though, because everybody gets a personal experience. Like, I love reading the forums and seeing how people come and they sort of tell their story and what they interpreted of it, and then you see other people discussing what they thought of it. And to me, it's kind of nice because everybody takes something unique away from it.
Well, fair enough that I'm just starting the game, but I haven't heard any dialogue or monologue aside from.
When I wrote the music for the mod of Dear Esther, there was absolutely no budget whatsoever for live players, so all the music was sampled. But one of the good things about that is it actually forced me to be quite creative about how I wrote the music. So with my background in sound art, I wanted to use samples in a different way that wasn't just using it to sound like a violin. I wanted to time stretch and manipulate samples to make something different and strange and quite unique. But then when we got the Indie Fund money, I had the amazing opportunity to re-record the music with live players. And that was so exciting for me, actually, because that's where it comes to life. And I thought long and hard about whether to write new music, going from the mod to the commercial version. But actually, I decided that my initial and original emotional response to the game was probably going to be the strongest response and reaction that I had. So I just literally the music that I'd written for samples, I then wrote out for live instruments. But what they bring to it is transformative, actually. And I think The Beach is a really good example of this, where, you know, you have these awful samples soaring away, and then you have the string quartet playing this very bleak, very sparse music, and they bring the presence of the island immediately to it, and it comes to life. And that's the exciting thing about it. It wasn't a huge budget, but just having that experience of working with the players was just magical.
Thank you. Well, a brunch. Holy shit, like, it's definitely pleasant.
Everything about Esther for me is a dream. The landscape is not an island, it's the dream of an island. The music is like music that you wake up because you've heard in your sleep, but you're not conscious of hearing it. And the language in the story was supposed to be like that as well. It didn't matter the sense it made, it was more about the kind of the shapes it created, if that makes sense. So that the words would kind of were like being in water, like listening to something underwater. It'd be this very dreamlike, symbolic, poetic thing. And it always frustrated me in games with game writing. This has really changed quite a lot. There was never any space for poetic language. It was very exposition-y, very descriptive, very direct. And you'd have like art and audio would have these amazing creative spaces they could explore. But when it came down to actually writing, you just had to basically go into the room, describe the character, tell the player what to do. And it just seemed like the most boring thing you could do with words in a game. And why couldn't a writer have the same artistic freedom as a visual artist or an audio designer or a musician, in terms of being able to say, isn't this just about creating this kind of emotional tone, this emotional space? And it's really, I still love that about the game. It's one of the things I love so much about Nigel's voiceover, is it has this really odd, disconnected, kind of dreamlike quality to it, where you might finish the game and not actually understand anything that happened, but you're being carried along in the flow of it. And without any kind of sarcasm at all. I get into trouble saying things like this. The same design principle applies as this to Halo. It's 30 seconds of fun, or 30 seconds of depressing engagement, I guess, in our case. But it is about that loop of being in the moment in the game constantly, and that's actually the critical thing that matters.
Hold on. Guys, I just checked, and if you do enable director's commentary, the regular voiceover for the game gets disabled. So I'm actually going to exit to the main menu. Alright guys, let's restart the game so that we can enjoy, like, the actual story.
Dear Esther, I've lost track of how long I've been here, and how many visits I have made overall. Certainly the landmarks are now so familiar to me that I have to remind myself to actually see the forms and shapes in front of me. I could stumble blind across these rocks, the edges of these precipices, without fear of missing my step and plummeting down to sea. Besides, I've always considered that if one is to fall, it is critical to keep one's eyes firmly open.
Alright, here we go. Let's enjoy this. Right, so now the book is missing. It's missing from here as well. Load of paint, like before. More paint here. if I can run. No. Like, I really wish there was a... kind of like in, I believe, Tacoma, where I was able to enjoy both game audio and developer commentary at the same time during the same playthrough. I think that's the best, really.
When you were born, your mother told me a hush fell over the delivery room. A great red birthmark covered the left side of your face. No one knew what to say, so you cried to fill the vacuum. I always admired you for that you cried to fill whatever vacuum you found. I began to manufacture vacuums just to enable you to deploy your talent. The birthmark faded by the time you were 6 and had gone completely by the time we met, but your fascination with the empty and its cure remained.
When you were born, your mother told me. And then we met, so... What? Do I have... I don't. What the hell, man?
Found the ship's manifest, crumpled and waterlogged under a stash of paint cans. It tells me that along with this present cargo, there was a large quantity of antacid yogurt bound for the European market. It must have washed out to sea. God knows there are no longer gulls or goats here to eat it.
What? Well, this is from a car. What? What? I understand nothing. Come on, friend. I am so confused. I saw nothing in there. You know? I don't know how to explain it, but the way that things are moving, like these rocks, as I'm walking towards them, it's not realistic at all. Like, I don't know, it's like they float. Like, I don't know how to explain it, really.
Donnelly's book had not been taken out from the library since 1974. I decided it would never be missed as I slipped it under my coat and avoided the librarian's gaze on the way out. If the subject matter is obscure, the writer's literary style is even more so. It is not the text of a stable or trustworthy reporter. Perhaps it is fitting that my only companion in these last days should be a stolen book written by a dying man.
What the fuck are you talking about? So lost, guys.
When someone had died or was dying, or was so ill they gave up what little hope they could sacrifice, they cut parallel lines into the cliff, exposing the white chalk beneath.
What?
You could see them from the mainland or the fishing boats, and know to send aid or impose a cordon of protection, and wait a generation until whatever pestilence stalked the cliff paths died along with its hosts. My lines are just for this: to keep any would-be rescuers at bay. The infection is not simply of the flesh.
Are you depressed? Is that what's going on? I don't know what he's referring to. Are those graves? On the bottom there.
They were God-fearing people, those shepherds. There was no love in the relationship. Donnelly tells me that they had one Bible that was passed around in strict rotation. It was stolen by a visiting monk in 1776, 2 years before the island was abandoned altogether. In the interim, I wonder, did they assign chapter and verse to the stones and grasses, marking the geography with a superimposed significance that they could actually walk the Bible and inhabit its contradictions?
What? Like, I get what the developer was talking about too much exposition, but can you please just expose to me a little bit, because I am so lost, buddy.
Dear Esther, I met Paul. I made my own little pilgrimage. My Damascus, a small semi-detached on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. We drank coffee in his kitchen and tried to connect to one another. Although he knew I hadn't come in search of an apology, reason or retribution, he still spiraled in panic, thrown high and lucid by his own dented bonnet. Responsibility had made him old. Like us, he'd already passed beyond any conceivable boundary of life.
There was static in there.
This hermit, this seer, this distant historian of bones and old bread, where did he vanish to? Why? Asked the farmers. Why? Asked Jakobsen. Why bother with your visions at all, if you're just to throw your arms up at the cliff and let it close in behind you and seal you into the belly of the island, a museum shut to all but the most devoted?
What? Alright. Is that a cell? Is this a lobster? love seagulls. Although that doesn't look like a seagull.
The vegetation here has fossilized from the roots up.
What?
To think they once grazed animals here, the remnants of occupation being evidence to that. It is all sick
Oh, it's
to death.
water.
The water is too polluted for the fish, the sky is too thin for the birds, and the soil is cut with the bones of hermits and shepherds. I've heard it said that human ashes make great fertilizer, that we could sow a forest from all that is left of your hips and ribcage, with enough left over to thicken the air and repopulate the bay.
Okay, number one, is Esther dead? Because you just said that we could use their bones and whatever. And another thing is, you say that it's too thin for the birds. We heard seagulls already. We saw a bird, and I can see vegetation all around. And so, what in the world? Are you high? The water effects are really trippy. Right, is this a cemetery? Are you wood? Is this wood or rock? Chemistry. Alright, well. Like, I'm just assuming that the thing, like, tower-like thing. Oh, Lord. Chapter The Lighthouse.
Dear Esther, I have now driven the stretch of the M5 between Exeter and Bristol over 21 times. But although I have all the reports and all the witnesses, and have cross-referenced them within a millimetre using my Ordnance Survey maps, I simply cannot find the location. You'd think there would be marks to serve as some evidence. It's somewhere between the turn-off for Sanford and the welcome brake services, but although I can always see it in my rear-view mirror, I have as yet been unable to pull ashore.
Are you looking for evidence of Esther's murder? Is that what's going on here? Why white over there?
begun to wonder if Donnelly's voyage here was as prosaic as it was presented. How disappointed not to have found the bones of the holy man. No wonder he hated the inhabitants so. To him they must have seemed like barnacles mindlessly clinging to a mercy seat. Why cling so hard to the rock? Because it is the only thing that stops us from sliding into the ocean, into oblivion.
Eat, no drink. I don't know what that says. What? Raid neither did he eat or drink. Neither did he eat or drink. Alright. Can I climb aboard? I don't think I can.
There must be a hole in the bottom of the boat. How else could new hermits have arrived?
The fuck does that mean? And neither did he eat nor drink. Like, is this some kind of puzzle? Okay, I can't go here. Yeah, I don't think I can, so let's just go elsewhere.
I had kidney stones and you visited me in the hospital. After the operation, when I was still half submerged in anesthetic, your outline and your speech both blurred. Now my stones have grown into an island and made their escape, and you have been rendered opaque by the car of a drunk.
So Esther was killed or severely injured by a drunk driver. And we are struggling with that. Now, are we struggling?
What charnel house lies at the foot of this abyss?
Oh.
How many dead shepherds could fill this hole?
Yeah.
Come back.
What the hell? Oh. Wow, that was an achievement. So are we struggling as a friend or as a cop or detective or both?
I've begun to climb, away from the sea and towards the center. It is a straight line to the summit, where the evening begins to coil around the aerial and squeeze the signals into early silence. The bothy squats against the mount to avoid the gaze of the aerial. I too will creep under the island like an animal and approach it from the northern shore.
Roar. Oh! Now, is this like his journey to grief or...
The bothy was constructed originally in the early 1700s. By then, shepherding had formalized into a career. The first habitual shepherd was a man called Jakobsen, from a lineage of migratory Scandinavians. He was not considered a man of breeding by the mainlanders.
What?
He came here every summer whilst building the bothy, hoping eventually that becoming a man of property would secure him a wife and a lineage. Donnelly records that it did not work. He caught some disease from his malcontented goats and died 2 years after completing it. There was no one to carve white lines into the cliff for him either.
Oh God. What in the world? What does the blue paint mean, buddy? I don't even know what a bothy is. I've never heard that word before. I have no idea what I'm looking at.
My heart is landfill. These false dawns waking into the still never light. I sweat for you in the small hours and wrap my blankets into a mass. I have always heard the waves break on these lost shores, always the gulls forgotten. I can lift this bottle to my ear, and all there ever is for me is this Hebridean music.
What? Oh my God! Seagull! No idea, friendo.
Come back.
Oh, I did not die. Oh, or rather, I died again. Alright. gonna get a bad ending because I keep intentionally going down cliffs in a not
Jakobsen's
intended
ribcage, they
way.
told Donnelly, was deformed, the result of some birth defect or perhaps a traumatic injury as a child. Brittle and overblown it was, and desperately light. Perhaps it was this that finally did for him, unable to contain the shattering of his heart. In half-light, his skeleton a discarded prop, a false and calcified seabird.
What? Are you calling him a seagull, or what the heck? My guy.
Climbing down to the caves, I slipped and fell and have injured my leg. I think the femur is broken. It is clearly infected. The skin has turned a bright, tight pink, and the pain is crashing in on waves, winter tides against my shoreline, drowning out the ache of my stones. I struggled back to the bothy to rest, but it has become clear that there is only one way this is likely to end. The medical supplies I looted from the trawler have suddenly found their purpose. They will keep me lucid for my final ascent.
Are you dying? The buoy, Jacobson. I am so confused.
Donnelly did not pass through the caves. From here on in, his guidance, unreliable as it is gone from me. I understand now that it is between the two of us, and whatever correspondence can be drawn from the wet rocks.
Oh. So this is like the hole or something. Well, someone put candles and things of ink everywhere, it looks like. Unless it's not ink and it's like some substance that is natural to this area. Like now they're green. Are these mushrooms or? Oh man, what are these things called? I'm only thinking of the name in Portuguese, which is alforreca. Sorry. Alforreca. How do I say that in English? I can't think. This has more ink, it looks like.
It was as if someone had taken the car and shaken it like a cocktail. The glove compartment had been opened and emptied with the ashtrays and the boot. It made for a crumpled museum, a shattered exhibition.
You mean the car that ended up hurting Esther? anyone would slip and fall crossing that.
I am traveling through my own body, following the line of infection from the shattered femur towards the heart. I swallow fistfuls of painkillers to stay lucid. In my delirium, I see the twin lights of the moon and the Ariel shining to me through the rocks.
We're dying as well, then. So, like, there's... I don't know if I can call it narratives, but there's one where he's trying to solve or find out the culprit behind who hurt Esther, and he's running out of time to do so? Because he's mortally wounded? So is this like the infection spreading through his body, or what? What the? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you could climb.
When I was coming round from the operation, I remember the light they shone in my eyes to check for pupil contraction. It was like staring up at a moonlit sky from the bottom of a well. People moved at the summit, but I could not tell if you were one of them.
Behold, Damascus. Taken? This Damascus is taken? Oh. Honey, I can't keep up with the drawings. Supposed to memorize something in here. Away from being a city. Behold, Damascus was taken away from being a city. And it shall be a ruinous ruinous heap. What? I can't read, man. Imagine if at the end of the game, at the game, I get like a quiz to see if I understood the story or not. You know that I would just be randomizing my answers. you go, mate. Hospital. Car. Hospital. Are these coins? Okay. Is it getting darker? Yeah. What if we were in the car with Esther? What if we actually are the drunk one? Because we did mention before that we just kept, you know, bringing a bottle up to our ear. The caves. Alright, I think this is the last chapter. And I don't feel that I'm getting closer to understanding what the heck's going on with us, with Esther. Alright, so there is a camp in here.
I sat here and watched two jets carve parallel white lines into the sky. They charted their course, and I followed them for 21 minutes until they turned off near Sanford and were lost. If I were a gull, I would abandon my nest and join them. I would starve my brain of oxygen and suffer delusions of transcendence. I would tear the bottom from my boat and sail across the motorways until I reached this island once again.
So this is like, are you, or am I, in a coma? Okay, evidence of the crash. So like there's the tire marks, I think that's blood, and a destroyed car.
We shall begin to assemble our own version of the North Shore. We will scrawl in dead languages and electrical diagrams and hide them away for future theologians to muse and mumble over. We will send a letter to Esther Donnelly and demand her answer. We will mix the paint with ashes and tarmac and the glow from our infections. We will paint a moon over the Sanford Junction and blue lights falling like stars along the hard shoulder.
What do you mean demand an answer? Okay, surgery stuff like tools. You just know that I'm gonna read online about what the fuck did I just play, right? I'm so sorry for yawning. picture. Is that a man? Oh! There you are. Well, I don't think I'm going there then. Gonna follow the candles that are lighting the way. Gives a cool warm effect. Okay, more car stuff. Right.
There were chemical diagrams on the mug he gave me coffee in, sticky at the handle where his hands shook. He worked for a pharmaceutical company with an office based on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. He'd been travelling back from a sales conference in Exeter, forming a strategic vision for the peddling of antacid yogurt to the European market. You could trace the connections with your finger, join the dots, and whole new compounds would be summoned into activity.
Who is he? What? Sure, around him. Heaven. From heaven. Oh, heaven shone. Okay, a light from heaven shone around him. Who is him? What the hell is going on, buddy? How many characters are in this game? Is there a hole in here?
From here, I can see my armada. I collected all the letters I'd ever meant to send to you, if I'd have ever made it to the mainland, but had instead collected at the bottom of my rucksack, and I spread them out along the lost beach. Then I took each and every one, and I folded them into boats. I folded you into the creases, and then, as the sun was setting, I set the fleet to sail. Shattered into 21 pieces, I consigned you to the Atlantic, and I sat here until I'd watched all of you sink.
Did Esther die before you could send the letters? What? Aw, paper things. Oh wait, oh okay, so each letter, he made it into a paper boat, and then this is it? Like his armada? Like, am I being too stupid? Like, am I oversimplifying things? A light from heaven shone around him, and he fell to the ground. Eggs? Am I now meant to go to the light over there at the top that we could see from the very beginning of the game?
When Paul keeled over dead on the road to Damascus, they resuscitated him by hitting him in the chest with stones gathered by the roadside. He was lifeless for 21 minutes, certainly long enough for the oxygen levels in his brain to have decreased and caused hallucinations and delusions of transcendence. I'm running out of painkillers, and the moon has become almost unbearably bright.
What do you mean? Are you not confusing the moon with the sun? Or is that the Evan light that is being mentioned in blue paint? Yeah, we're definitely going there. I'm pretty sure at this point. Like, who is Paul? Who are we?
I've begun my voyage in a paper boat without a bottom. I will fly to the moon in it. I've been folded along a crease in time, a weakness in the sheet of life. Now you've settled on the opposite side of the paper to me. I can see your traces in the ink that soaks through the fiber, the pulped vegetation. When we become waterlogged and the cage disintegrates, we will intermingle. When this paper aeroplane leaves the cliff edge and carves parallel vapor trails in the dark, we will come together.
Alright, nothing here. And as he was preceding, what? And as he was preceding, shouldn't he be proceeding? And as he was proceeding on his journey, is this us? We are proceeding on our journey. Oh God, don't do this. And was come near to Damascus? I'm gonna assume it's Damascus. And he drank.
If only Donnelly had experienced this, he would have realized he was his own shoreline, as am I. Just as I am becoming this island, so he became his syphilis, retreating into the burning synapses, the stones, the infection.
Right. And he was 3 days. And neither did he eat or drink. Okay. So, and he was 3 days without what is this word? S-I something sitch without what? I don't understand. Like, I can't read. Like, oh, sight. 3 days without sight. Okay. God damn.
The stones in my stomach will weigh me down and ensure my descent is true and straight. I will break through the fog of these godforsaken pills and achieve clarity. All my functions are clogged, all my veins are choked. If my leg doesn't rot off before I reach the summit, it will be a miracle. There are 21 connections in the circuit diagram of the anti-lock brakes. There are 21 species of gull inhabiting these islands. It is 21 miles between the Sandford Junction and the turn-off for home. All these things cannot, will not be a coincidence.
Are you reaching a breakthrough or what? Is it a breakthrough or a breakdown? Like a mental breakdown? what does it say here? And it came to east. Oh god, climb please. Ah! And oh my god, I can't. And it came to east. No, it came to past. No, it came to pass that as I made my journey, and it came to pass as I made my journey, and was some what? Some Damascus. I can't read, like, what the like, noon. Noon or moon? Noon, maybe. I think. From heaven, light round about me. What? Light round about me. What? And could not see.
A gull perched on a spent bonnet, sideways, whilst the sirens fell through the middle distance and the metal moaned in grief about us. I'm about this night in walking, old bread and gull bones, old Donnelly at the bar gripping his drink, old Esther walking with our children, old Paul as ever, old Paul. He shakes and he shivers and he turns off his lights alone.
So, is Esther our wife being led by the hand of them? I feel like I'm learning to read again. What? That were with me. That with them that were with me. Came into oh my lord. Damascus. Is that a person? Is that a person over there? Okay, I think that's a person.
I am the Ariel. In my passing, I will send news to each and every star.
Yeah, we're dying, I think.
Dear Esther, I have burnt my belongings, my books, this death certificate. Mine will be written all across this island. Who was Jacobson? Who remembers him? Donnelly has written of him, but who was Donnelly? Who remembers him? I have painted, carved, hewn, scored into this space all that I could draw from him. There will be another to these shores to remember me. I will rise from the ocean like an island without bottom, come together like a stone, become an Ariel, a beacon, that they will not forget you. We have always been drawn here. One day the gulls will return and nest in our bones and our history. I will look to my left and see Esther Donnelly flying beside me. I will look to my right and see Paul Jacobson flying beside me. They will leave white lines carved into the air to reach the mainland, where help will be sent.
Do I control? No. Yeah, we are a goal. Alright, guys, that was Dear Esther, Landmark Edition. I'll basically give you a short summary that I found here online. So, the story. The narrator is the same character as Paul Jacobson and is married to a woman named Esther Donnelly. Paul crashes their car and kills Esther. Paul had stopped for drinks before the accident, but had kept a careful eye on his intake. The accident killed Paul as well, but they were able to successfully resuscitate him. Later on, the narrator steals a book written by a man, Donnelly, an ancestor of Esther, from the library, and goes to the island that the book was written on or about. The narrator does this because he wants to be closer to Esther. The narrator finds gloss paint from a shipwreck, mixes it with Esther's ashes, and uses it to paint icons and symbols relating to the accident on rocks and ceilings on the island. The narrator injures his leg and becomes delirious from the infection. He burns and sinks all the boats there and burns all his belongings and then jumps off of a cliff to be with his dead wife. So I think that this explanation fits, and I'm happy to go with it. I think, in terms of criticisms, like straight up, developer commentary should be available to those. Let's say, should be available without affecting the game audio. This is my opinion. This is a hill I will die on. Soundtrack, I enjoyed it except for the last song that was used at the end. I think voice acting is fine. This is a type of game where I think the story is hard to follow, at least for me. And so, I would really appreciate a bit more exposition-y, and that's where developer commentary typically is useful for people like me, and is super, super interesting. I'm sorry. To learn more about the vision that the developers had, the process, the steps they took, from what they had in mind up to the released version, or what challenges they had and how they overcame it, or them, I should say, overcame them, and a lot of other super interesting details that developers are willing to share with their audience. Yeah, I like the visuals. Like, honestly, not honestly, sorry. I believe this game is from 2014. Feel free to correct me in the comments below if I'm getting it wrong. So, like, the visuals are definitely dated. But if you can get past, like, I don't even think they're that bad. But I also wish there was a run button because, I don't know, walking to this speed felt kind of sluggish at times. But that's it for my review. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you soon.